Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday the 24th of June. Here we go. Today's law is about if you get dust on your clothing on Shabbos and you want to just dust off a dusty spot, are you allowed, yes or no? So, here are the basics. You know you're not allowed to launder your clothing on Shabbos, but laundering is more specifically like dunking a shirt in water and, having the soap and the water and everything help you scrub the shirt, etc. That's real laundering, and that, of course, you're not going to hopefully not do that on Shabbos. The question, though, is if there's some dust that got onto the fabric of your clothing and you want to just wipe it off, would that fall under the category of laundering? Probably a lot of you listening to this halacha feel like in your gut, oh, come on, that's not laundering. That's just brushing off some dust. So maybe that's how you feel, but let's look at halacha and see if that's what the halacha says. There are three major opinions to consider. First of all, the Magen Avram in the Shulchan Aruch brings the Sefer HaZichronos that says a very strict opinion on this matter. He says that even if a feather was just sitting on the fabric of your jacket, let's say, and you removed the feather, according to his very strict opinion, that would fall under the category of laundering, not like you thought. So if we follow that opinion, wow, then you're going to really not be able to dust off anything from your clothing on Shabbos. But hold tight, there's two more important opinions. Then there's an opinion all the way to the other extreme, which is the opinion of Tosfos in Masechah Shabbos, and a lot of other Rishonim also have this opinion, and they say that removing dust is not laundering at all, even if it's in the fibers of the fabric. That's like some of you were guessing when you first heard this. But don't jump the gun yet, because we don't necessarily follow that halacha. A middle-of-the-road opinion is the opinion of Rashi, and Rashi says that it depends. If the dust is sitting on the outside of the fibers of your jacket, let's say, then dusting them off would not be considered laundering. But if they're interwoven, like they got blended in to the inner fibers of your fabric, then getting them off of the fabric would be considered laundering, because, come on, even without water, that's like dry cleaning, kind of, because you're getting the dust particles outside of the interwoven lockingness of the fabric. Sorry, I didn't say that right, but you understand Rashi would consider that laundering, since the dust was blended into the inside of the fabric and you just got it out. So, what should you do lahalacha on Shabbos if some dust gets on your clothing? Well, in the Shulchan Aruch, when you look this up in the Shulchan Aruch, most people try to follow the opinion of Rashi, that middle opinion which says that dust on the outside of your fabric is not laundering and dust on the inside of the fabric is laundering. And how are you going to know what's dust on the outside of the fabric and what's dust on the inside of the fabric? So when you look it up, and in the Mishnah Berurah, he'll basically try to say to you, try not to ever be in situations where dust is going to get on your clothing, because if you then try to dust it off, you could be guilty, because we follow pretty much that middle opinion like Rashi, and dust that's inside the fabric would be considered laundering if you got it out, and therefore you'd have to be careful about dusting off your clothing. Now, I looked this all up in Rabbi Neustat's book, and he says very carefully for us that this is the best thing for you to do in this situation if there is some dust on your clothing. After looking into the halacha will basically come out like this. If the dust spot on your clothing is the kind of thing that barely bothers you, then getting that little bit of dust off in a light way would not be considered laundering, because you would have worn the jacket anyway. It just has a little spot that you barely care about. So he says in that type of situation, lightly getting it off, we'll explain what lightly means in just a moment, lightly getting it off would be allowed. However, if it's something that you absolutely are mortified and you wouldn't go out wearing it like that, and now you're going to scrub it and get it out, well, then you just laundered your beged. That's the way he decides it, according to what a lot of the poskim seem to say. If you can't go out like that, you're mortified, and now you're doing this to be able to go out, then we're going to consider it like you laundered your clothing. So if it's really light and it's something you barely care about and you're just going to lightly get it off, then it seems like it's going to be allowed. You'd have to make certain not to use a brush, and also you'd have to make certain not to shake vigorously, because if you use a brush or shaking vigorously would put it right back in the category of laundering, and you don't want to do that. So sorry if that's a lot of information. Basically, only a light dusting could be taken off if it's something that you barely care about. Make sure to do it without a brush, and make sure to do it by not shaking vigorously, and then according to a lot of rabbis, it's going to be allowed. All other dusting offs that are vigorous and that are very serious would be considered laundering, and you'd have to stay away from it. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.